Hello students, welcome to 6th lecture of biomolecules. In previous lecture we started our second biomolecule protein and we were discussing about the amino acid basic constituent unit of proteins. So in today's topic we are going to start with classification of amino acids. Amino acids can be classified as acidic, basic or neutral depending upon the relative number of amino and carboxyl group in their molecule. Equal number of amino and carboxyl group makes it neutral. More number of amino than the carboxyl group makes it basic, and more number of carboxyl group as compared to the amino group makes it acidic. So obviously it contains both type of groups. So higher number of group will show its effect. It will be more dominant. So if amino acids are more, then it will be basic. If carboxyl groups are more, then it will be acidic. And if both of them are equal, then our amino acid will be neutral. And the second method is the amino acids which can be synthesized in the body are known as non-essential amino acids, and those which cannot be synthesized in our body and we have to take them through the diet are known as essential amino acids, which are marked with asterisk or star sign in previous table. That means certain acids, amino acids, are synthesized inside our body, so we do not need it from the outer source or supply, but certain are not produced or synthesized by our body, so we have to consume them as a food, or it will be present in as a dietary supplied in food. So amino acids synthesized by bodies are non-essential because we do not need them, or we do not need to consume them from the dietary supply, and those which cannot be synthesized inside the bodies are essential. We have to consume them from our diet or food. Amino acids are usually colorless crystalline solids. These are water soluble, high melting solids and behave as salts rather than the simple amines or carboxylic acids because it contains both type of groups. This behavior is due to the presence of both acidic, carboxyl and basic, that means amine group, in the same molecule. In aqueous solution, the carboxyl group can lose a proton and amino acid can accept it. So this gives rise to dipolar ion known as Zwitter ion. So in any ion which contains both type of parts, that means positive and negative, both type of charge in the same ion, then it is called Zwitter ion. So if you have one acidic group, one basic group, then they will act according to their nature. So acid's common nature is to release H plus and base's common nature is to accept H plus. So in amino acid, both of them in soluble form behaves as their nature. Acid will lose H plus, base will accept H plus. So by losing H plus, COOH group will become negative COO minus, and NH3 group will NH2 group will become positive NH3 plus, as we can see in this image mentioned here. So initial stage, final stage, both are mentioned. So as we can see, this H will be removed as H plus, and it will feel attraction towards this nitrogen and it will form positive ion NH3 plus and negative ion at its initial location COO minus. This is called Zwitter ion. Zwitter ions are positive as well as negative, and combinedly it will be neutral. So if you check the total charge, then our ion is still, overall charge is neutral, but it still contains positive part, still contains negative part, and it is neutral. In Zwitter ionic form, amino acid shows amphoteric behavior. That means it has both type of behavior, acidic and basic, and reason is because it has both type of parts. Except glycine, all the other naturally occurring alpha amino acids are optically active. If you check the glycine, then you will notice its reactive group R is hydrogen. So already carbon, center carbon or alpha carbon contains one hydrogen, and if as a reactive group you place one more hydrogen, then it will be optically inactive because it is not asymmetric or chiral. So since alpha carbon atom is asymmetric in all the other amino acids, they will be optical active. These exist in both D and L forms. More naturally occurring amino acids have L configurations. L amino acids are represented by writing the NH2 group on the left hand side, because our main group is COOH group. So it will be placed on vertical line and you have to place second priority group on the last asymmetric carbon on left or right. If you represent it on left hand side, then it will be L, and if you represent it on right hand side, then it will be R configuration. Our next point is structure of protein. Now to obtain the structure of protein, we have to join amino acids. So as we already know, proteins are polymers of alpha amino acids, and they are connected to each other by peptide bond or peptide linkage. Just like we learned in previous example, that means in case of saccharides, when two different monosaccharides are attached with oxygen linkage, they are called glycosidic linkage. In this case, our linkage will be called peptide bond or peptide linkage. Chemically, peptide linkage is an amide form because it is formed between COOH group and NH2 group. When COONH group and NH2, that means carboxyl group and amine group, combines with each other, it will lose one water molecule, OH group from COOH and H from NH2, and remaining portion will join together, that means CO and NH. So CONH represents amide group. So chemically, peptide bond or peptide linkage is amide bond. So when NH2 group of first amino acid and COOH group of second amino acid combines together, it forms peptide bond CONH bond, and it has one peptide linkage, and it is called dipeptide because it is made up of two amino acids. So when two amino acids are joined together, it is called dipeptide, and that means when three are attached with each other, it is called tripeptide, and so on. As mentioned in this figure, OH group from COOH and one hydrogen from NH2 will be removed as H2O, and CO and NH will combine with each other to form a peptide linkage or amide bond. And if you want expanded structure, then we can write it as follow. Suppose we have CH and R group is present as a branch, and let us say we have one NH2 group here and COOH group here, but we can rearrange the COOH group as C double bond O and OH. And similar type of second molecule, when we place it near to this first molecule, then there is a possibility that first groups OH and seconds NH2 will react with each other, and they will combine to form a peptide linkage. That means OH group from here and one hydrogen from here will be removed as H2O, and carbon and nitrogen will combine with each other to form CONH bond, peptide bond or peptide linkage or amide bond. So when two amino acids combines with each other, it is called dipeptide having one peptide bond or linkage. When three amino acids combine with each other, it is called tripeptide with two peptide bonds. Keep in mind, number of amino acids and peptide bond will be, suppose number of amino acid is equal to n, then number of peptide bonds will be n minus 1, because to link two different amino acids we need only one linkage. Okay, so it will be number of peptide bonds will be less than the number of amino acid. So when we have 4 amino acids, it is called tetrapeptide. When we have 5, it will be pentapeptides. If you have 6, then it will be hexapeptide. And when this number grows and the number of amino acids become more than 10, then it is called polypeptide. Polypeptide with more than 100 amino acid residues having molecular mass higher than 10,000 is called protein. Okay, so up to 10,000 it will be polypeptide, and if it crosses that limit, it will be called protein. So proteins are very large molecule because amino acid molecules are not simple molecule, they are already some slightly complex molecule, and when we link them together in large number, first we will get polypeptides, and even longer chains will result in proteins. However, the distinction between the polypeptide and protein is not very sharp. Polypeptides with fewer amino acids likely to be called protein if they ordinarily have well defined conformation of proteins such as insulins. which contains only 51 amino acid, but still it is considered as protein. But normally protein contains very high molecular masses. Proteins can be classified into two types on the basis of their molecular shape, fibrous protein and globular protein. So when the polypeptide chains runs parallel and they are held together by hydrogen bondings, that means in certain portion hydrogen will be present which will be attracted towards the negative ion present in second chain, or disulfide linkage, that means sulfur will be present as a link. Okay, so this type of link will held two different chains together and fiber like structure is formed. Such proteins are generally insoluble in water. Some common examples are keratin present in hair, wool or silk, and myosin present in muscles, etc. Second is globular proteins. This structure results in when chain of polypeptides coiled around to give a spherical shape. And this type of coiled is due to the interaction between itself. That means in previous example, when two different chains are placed together, then they will attract each other. It is called intermolecular attraction between two different molecules. But in this case, when globular proteins are obtained, it is intramolecular attraction. So simply understand it like this way. Suppose this chain has some attractive sites. Okay, so if second chain fulfills these attractive sites, then this first chain do not need to coil. But suppose we have only a single chain and it has some attractive sites, that means hydrogens to form hydrogen bondings. And if we do not have second chain, then this chain will coil to fulfill its attraction or to decrease its instability, and that's why these type of globular proteins will be obtained. So these are usually soluble in water. Insulin and albumins are the common example of globular protein. Structure and shape of proteins can be studied at 4 different levels, that is primary, secondary, tertiary and quaternary, each level being more complex than the previous one. That means in each step we are using first step as a base for the second step, and second step will be base for the third step. That means complexity of the first step will be starting point for the second step, and complexity of second step will be starting point for the third step, and same is applicable with third and fourth step. So as we move from primary to quaternary, more and more complex structures and heavy structures of proteins will be obtained. So first of all, as mentioned here, primary structure of protein. In primary structure of proteins, proteins may have one or more polypeptide chains. Each polypeptide in a protein has amino acids linked with each other in specific sequence, and it is in this sequence of amino acid that is said to be the primary structure of the protein. Any change in this primary structure, that is the sequence of any amino acid, creates a different protein. So that means each and every proteins have specific type of sequence of amino acids. And what is this sequence? We will discuss it with examples in next points. And tomorrow we will start with our secondary structure of protein. Thank you.